this morning. So let me present myself to you can see how I am presenting myself with my mask. This is day 59 of a happy new day, a day that we have never seen before, a day that will go into history as being a day of the past. So, what are we going to do this day to make sure we save our lives and the lives of others as we all, as a human race, deal with the issues, effects, outcomes, and fatalities of COVID-19? We have the solution from a 12-step program that was customized over 80 plus years ago by Alcoholics Anonymous. No, I do not represent Alcoholics Anonymous, but I've been a proud, humble, and grateful member for over 30 plus years. And as a result of my participation in the 12 spiritual principles and practicing them in all of my affairs, I sit before you because the creator of us all breathed life into you this morning, breathed life into me this morning, and we need to give acknowledgement and homage to that creator. The alarm clock didn't wake you up. The kids didn't wake you up. The trash truck didn't wake you up. The creator woke you up today for a reason and a purpose. Our creator uses broken, shattered, and wounded people to rescue wounded, shattered, and broken people like you and like me. So because he breathed life into us this morning, let us not take that for granted. Having survived COVID-19 with 7 other members of my family, we recognize that we can breathe, we can smell, we can taste, we can feel, we can see, we can hear. But our goal with these 12 spiritual principles is to listen so that we can learn how to apply the 12 spiritual principles to COVID-19 to stop the perpetuation of it, as well as the other variants that are among us. And I'm sure there are more to come. So the question is, are you in the prevention mode of COVID-19, the intervention mode of COVID-19, the restoration mode of COVID-19? Are you being proactive regarding COVID-19, reactive regarding COVID-19, or inactive regarding COVID-19? Or are you like me now, being responsible regarding COVID-19? So the fact that we can breathe, we need to give homage to our creator. While we do that, we want to do a 30-second moment of silence for those who have transitioned from COVID-19, the family members who are left behind of those who've lost loved ones to COVID-19. Those of us who are suffering right now, this very second, this very moment with COVID-19. Those who are recovering from COVID-19. Those who want to prevent from getting COVID-19. Those of us who are intervening on behalf of others with COVID-19. And yet those who still think it's a hoax and are rebellious and defiant regarding COVID-19. In other words, we need to do a 30-second moment of silence for the entire human race while we simultaneously go through this pandemic. But there is a solution that we need to learn and apply and practice in all our affairs. particularly during this pandemic of COVID-19. So join me around the world, huh? Yourself, your family, your culture, your community, your city, your state, your country. Let's take this moment of silence for all of us. Please join me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because there, by the grace of God, go I and one or several of those mentioned categories of where each and every one of us are in the COVID-19 pandemic mode. And I sit before you as one who contributed to contracting COVID-19, but it was my Creator who decided that I live, as well as 7 other family members live, so that we can sit before you to remind you that we are family, starting with yourself and starting with your own and starting with your culture. We are part of one human race. And as a result of surviving COVID-19, it is my obligation, my duty, my responsibility, and my honor to share my experience, my strength, and hope of the 12 recovery principles, spiritual in nature, for the past 30 years, as well as applying them now to COVID-19. When it says some of us must die in order for some of us to live, and our alcoholism and drug addiction, so it's the same with COVID-19. But we, you and I, individually, collectively, can change that. And we can be amongst the living like we are right here, right now. And that's why those 30 seconds that we often do in a 12-step program, we want to do the same thing for COVID-19. I want to also share with you that we will be expanding our platform on sharing the information on how to apply after learning and practicing the 12 steps to COVID-19 through a COVID-19 support group, COVID-19 Anonymous. We will be sharing with you what an open AA meeting looks like so that you can get an idea of how to substitute the alcohol and drugs with the COVID-19 pandemic and variants, right? We are going to utilize 2 resources that I'm going to put up on the screen in a few seconds, just to demonstrate with you why and how my Creator prepared me to sit before you this morning, this second, this moment, and this happy new day. And so when they say that all human beings are ill to some extent, guess what? All human beings can benefit from the 12 steps. All right, so what I want to do now is to acknowledge my resources and to share with you just how I've been able to sit before you this morning and for the last 59 days. And if you want to, let me put my glasses on this time, okay? If you want to see how I've been able to share this information with you and how it all started, then I want to be able to point you to the directions and where this information was generated and why. And so the first acknowledgement I want to give. So let me take this off. All right. So let me take this off. And let me bring this on. And what I would like to do is sometimes it's important for you to see my expressions, my they say I'm a very animated person, but it's not about me. It's about sharing the information. So I'm going to enhance the screen once I begin to talk about where and why this presentation started back in March of 2020. And April the 1st is when I hit that button to say 12 recovery principles. Here we are. All right. So if you need to go back to that time, April the 1st of 2020 is when I started my 12-step presentation. If you want to go back to day 50, no, if you want to go back to December the 3rd of day 1 of my quarantine and isolation, having contracted COVID-19, then you can see the transformation. And so it's important that I continue to be obedient, yield to the Spirit, and share my experience, strength, and hope, wisdom, lack of wisdom, choices and decisions, bad, but now good, as demonstrated in me wearing my mask, and how it all got started. All right. So we are on recovery principle number 4. And that's why I want you to go back as far as you can to review some of the previous conversations and bring yourself up to date. So review is important, repetition is important, and the focus of this morning's conversation is part 7 of recovery principle number 4, made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. Okay? So, but let's review the 2 resources that prompted me to sit before you this day and for since April the 1st, and applying it to COVID-19 as of December the 3rd. All right. So the first acknowledgement that I want to give is to Dr. Scott T. Allison. His article in Psychology Today in the March 2020 edition, where he states that how the wisdom of 12-step programs can help get us through April, right? Now we in a new year, in another new month, and COVID-19 is still alive. And because it's a virus, it is looking to occupy any and all types of hosts like our bodies so that it can replicate and duplicate until such time we as human beings become wise in order to stop the perpetuation of COVID-19. He uses the Al-Anon approach that uses the same 12 recovery principles as in Alcoholics Anonymous. And he outlined 7 points that I want to go through briefly, but I want you to go back and retrieve the information for yourself. So the wisdom of a 12-step program as we apply it to the pandemic. Back then, it was our first, what they call isolation and being quarantined. He outlined these 7 points. 1, letting go of control. Human beings are designed to seek control and to seize it whenever possible. I hope you agree, because it's true. During a pandemic, when so much is out of our control, the best gift we can give ourselves is to follow the serenity prayer made so famous by 12-step program. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You're going to see when I present to you all of the 12 steps in their totality, how holistically we can begin to have that spiritual transition that will bring about that psychic change. The serenity prayer, the prayer encourages us to let go of things we cannot change and to focus only on things we can. This is important. Letting go calms us and assures us that we neither are designed nor able to fix the entire world. So let's go back to screen number 2. Okay, let's see here. Let me go here and let me go down here. Okay. Let's move this out the way. Okay, let me go back here and bring this up. Say, listen, I am still learning how to navigate with this stuff, and I want to be able to share it with you. So, let's go with number 2. All right. It says patience. Patience. One of the central ideas of 12-step programs is the notion that in any crisis, there are rarely quick fixes. A crazy addiction or a crazy pandemic didn't happen overnight, and it won't resolve itself overnight. It is a virus. It is looking to replicate and duplicate itself in as many people as possible, on as many things as possible. It is a live organism, right? But this whole COVID-19 pandemic won't resolve itself overnight, and there are no quick fixes. Number 3, it says keeping the focus on oneself. Al-Anon teaches its members that the solution to most problems reside in our own attitudes and mindsets. Spiritual teachers throughout the ages have cautioned against taking the mental stories in our heads too seriously. A pandemic quarantine offers an opportunity for stillness and solitude, 2 keys to calming ourselves and changing the self-narrative to gratitude and to letting go of the need to control things beyond our own individual lives. And you will see when I present the 12 steps, while that admitting that we are powerless over COVID-19, that our lives are unmanageable, you will see that in the overview of the 12 steps. Let's go back to the next one. All right, point number 4. It says, okay, trust. The 12-step programs emphasizes the importance of trusting that even while things seem to be going wrong, there is a deeper, more long-term perspective that we can take individually and collectively. Such a perspective sees the potential good in any situation. And you may ask yourself, how in the world can I see good in this COVID-19? Well, when you are presented with the 12 steps that are spiritual in nature, you will begin to see with your spiritual eye and not your physical. It says we can trust that despite appearances, a power greater than ourselves is in charge and will somehow provide solutions that we are unaware of right now. He is the beginning, the middle, and the end. He knows the start, the middle, and the end of this COVID-19. That power greater than us. Okay, trust means again letting go of control and having faith that the world is slowly but surely healing itself. This is not the first pandemic we as a human race have gone through, and it won't be the last. All right? But we want to make sure that if we apply these 12 spiritual principles, we have a part of making the pandemic decrease, and we can have a part in saving lives, and more importantly, we will contribute to increasing minds, intelligence, and capability, but from a spiritual angle. All right. Number 5, it says living in the present. One of the most important of 12-step recovery programs is the practice of staying in the present moment. Or you may be hearing me, but I want you to listen to me. I put this information on the screen so that you can read it for yourself and not just hear it, but listen and marinate on it. All right. Our minds can easily wander to the past where regrets or resentments lie waiting for us, or to the future where anxieties lurk. And again, when I present these 12 steps to you, you will see what I'm talking about. There are no problems in the present moment, only challenges that can be met one at a time, one moment at a time. Staying in the present keeps our fears at bay and converts our problems into bite-sized, manageable issues that we can easily deal with. You see why? When I read this article on March the 31st, after it was given to me by my friend Stephanie J., how I was prompted to share this information with you beginning April the 1st. And so let's continue with point number, all right, 6. All right, it says here, social connections. It has been said that every person with addictions sore spot is the feeling of isolation, of being socially disconnected. Yet psychologists know that the need to belong is central to every model of human well-being. All 12-step programs strongly encourage their members to find a mentor, a sponsor who can walk the path of life with us. And when we apply this information to COVID-19 by having the 12 steps presented to you, you learning them, embracing them, analyzing them, and practicing them, you will see the importance of these 7 points. He continues with social connections. We each need to have one or more persons we can turn to for advice, for comforting words, for companionship, yes, even if it's over Zoom or the phone. Reaching out to people, even just texting them, can promote well-being. And the fact that I'm sitting before you right now demonstrates another connection where I am sharing information with you that helped me, and I'm hoping that a seed will be planted to help you to help others, which is what the 7th point is. It says service to others. The 12th and final step of recovery program states that the key to maintaining our own emotional well-being is to help, encourage, and comfort others. Each one of us possesses a gift to share with the world, whether it is painting, writing, singing, or simply listening. Listening is a key word, as you will see in these 12 steps. The latest research is very clear. When we reach out to help others, we are helping ourselves get better too. And so I wanted to share that with you because in my 12-step program and recovering from alcoholism, drug addiction, and all its related behaviors, that on February the 22nd of 1990, underneath that parked car, I hollered out to a God that I didn't know, heard about, to take me out this life or show me a better way. I was introduced to a 12-step program for the 4th time because I heard what they said the first 3 times, but I didn't listen. But underneath that parked car, when I hollered out, take me out this life or show me a better way, the student became ready to listen, and therefore the same teachers that were there before reappeared because the student was ready. And as a result of that, I have experienced a lot of issues, challenges, no problems. I'll have a problem if I drink a drug again. If I start prostituting again, I'll have some problems then. But in recovery, we learned that we only have challenges, issues that we can apply one or all of the 12 spiritual steps to challenge that adversity. All right. And so I thank my God for allowing me to be a change agent, to sit before you and share my experience, my strength, and my hope. But guess what? When I contracted COVID-19 back in November, as a result of being defiant, as a result of being rebellious, as a result of taking this thing for granted, I had the information of the 12 spiritual principles for 30 plus years, and I yet did not apply them to COVID-19. And I thank God that I survived it, because I'm applying it now and am able to share with you my experience, my strength, my hope, my wisdom, my lack of wisdom, my bad decision, my bad choices, and how I contributed to contracting and affecting my family members with COVID-19. All right. So now we are going to go to our continuation of recovery principle number 4. I'm going to take this off because I can breathe, I can smell, I can taste. And these 12 spiritual principles, as Donald Lawrence so eloquently says in his song called Spiritual, we are not natural beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings walking and living this natural experience. So if I survived COVID-19, I become the attraction. I become the example for my family members, particularly my grandchildren, who I spend most of my time with. And then representing my culture, I come from a lineage of kings and queens. This makeup that I have on represents my royalty, because the only mask that I need to put on is this one. The other mask needs to come off. This is the one that's designed to save my life and your life too. And they suggest we wear 2. Listen, I don't care if I have to wear 100. All right, so with that being said, I want to continue with presenting you the information regarding, regarding COVID-19. So let me take this off and let me go here, because now I want to do something else. Okay, I don't want to go there. Let's see, I think I want to go here. So let me try. So I think I want to go over here. All right, so we know that the 12 recovery principles, okay, let's see, present. Y'all stay with me. All right. Okay, let's go here. That we're going to talk about now is the 4th step. But before I get into that, I want to be able to share with you the first 3, okay? Where the first one says, we made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves, right? That is the very first step that we have to take 100%. And we know that when we state that we are powerless over COVID-19, that our lives had become unmanageable, you can ask yourself, how has COVID-19 made my life unmanageable? And then ask yourself, what caused that unmanageability? And then you will recognize that it is COVID-19, right? So that's recovery principle number 1. If we take recovery principle number 1, like people in alcoholism and drug addiction and Gamblers Anonymous and Sex Anonymous, we all use the same spiritual principles, right? but we admitted our powerlessness over that particular area of focus. Now we're changing the focus to COVID-19, that as a result of COVID-19, our lives, the whole world is in an unmanageable state. We are just, scrambling, finding what to do, where to go. No man has the answer. Right? And so we can see that the perpetuation of this COVID-19, is going to increase, but there is a solution. But we first have to accept our powerlessness, that we are not in control, but there are some things we can do. That's step one. Step two says, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, right? And sanity means soundness of mind. Recovery principle number 3 made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Recovery principle number 5 Recovery principle number 4 made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves, which we will do part 7 today. Recovery principle number 5 admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Recovery principle number 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry the message regarding COVID-19 to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So all of the steps that I just mentioned is being changed from the focus of alcohol and drugs to COVID-19. So let's go to the continuation of recovery principle number 4. All right. So what I want to do is add this to the screen, and remember, made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. What does a more inventory mean to you? Okay, repetition is important in a 12-step program because we never know when the student is ready so that the teacher can appear or reappear. And if you're like me, most of the time, I don't know what words means. Crack and alcohol took some of my brain cells and burnt them, right? But moral means concerned with the principles of right and wrong behavior and the goodness and badness of human character. So when we are talking about applying recovery principle number 4 to COVID-19, what are you concerned with in terms of the right and wrong behavior regarding COVID-19? What goodness and badness of your human character, can be assessed, about and regarding COVID-19. So we want to be able to challenge you with that. So the need to take a moral inventory to find out what you are thinking, what your attitudes are, and more important, where those attitudes, ideas, and behaviors were first formulated. And so let's go to that point, and we're going to go to the next screen where, again, review. We going back as early as we can to find out where those attitudes, ideas, and behaviors were formulated and how we have been able to, let's see. All right, wait a minute, y'all. Okay, earliest age of recollection was contributed to our development. In recovery of alcohol and drugs, it was important for us to go back as early as we could. I went back to, I think I was 3 or 4 years old, and whatever other situations during various ages, where was those attitudes, ideas, and behaviors, that mindset, particularly those that were destructive, those that were liability, those that caused us harm, when and where and who contributed to them, all right? And that's when we go to describing the scene. What was the scenario? what the community, how did it impact your work and relationships? Where did those attitudes, ideas, and behaviors started, and who contributed? What were some of the fondest memories? We're talking about a balancing act. We need to list the assets and the liabilities regarding a searching and fearless moral inventory. And then the last one, what about some of your challenging times, experiences, episodes? Can you describe your feelings at the time? And so let me give you an example of what I mean by sharing my personal experience, strength, and hope with you to give you an idea of how you can do the same exercise. All right. So when we look at, the area of COVID-19, I shared with you earlier how in a 12-step program with alcohol and drugs, I had a resentment against my mother. And because she got too much attention from my dad, it generated feelings of jealousy. It affected my self-esteem. The part that I played in it, I became manipulative, all right? So now that I'm changing the area of focus to COVID-19, what is my first resentment? And I am using Jason Waller. That's my other resource. Jason Waller, Wahler. He has an excellent breakdown outline template of all the 12 recovery principles. He has a podcast that him and his family uses to share his journey of being in recovery from alcoholism and drug addiction. And the fact that he's an actor. Well, I didn't know he was an actor. It didn't mean anything to me. I just like the template. But it goes to show you that alcohol and drugs don't discriminate, and neither do COVID-19. So the first exercise that they suggest we get rid of, or we try to address and become aware of and acknowledge, is the area of resentment. And so my first resentment regarding COVID-19 is against the creation of the virus. So I'm going to adjust that to say resentment against the virus, okay? And instead of family member, right? So we have all these speculations and hypotheses about where it started, who started it, what country, and all that kind of stuff. But the main thing is we as human beings, are strongly, adamantly resentful with this COVID-19. It has, oh my God, infiltrated our lives like nothing we've seen during our lifetime, right? And so my first resentment is against the creation of the virus. Why? And the cause. Because it has created uncertainty, and not just my life, my loved one's life, but the entire world, the entire globe is going through this, simultaneously. And so when we each look at our resentments against COVID-19 and how it has affected us, how it has impacted us, and has created such uncertainty, right? We ask ourselves, well, what feelings do we have? What feelings do I have? And I listed, I have mixed feelings, anger. I'm mad at this sucker. Right? Anxiety. What's going to happen? I don't know. I can't go back to drinking. I can't go back to drugging. Fear. Oh my goodness. Am I going to die? Am I contributing to the death of my loved ones? And in recovery, we say that fear can be an acronym for forget everything and run. No, in recovery, say face everything in fear. But in this COVID-19 and the creation of this virus and how it created uncertainty, I must be true to my feelings. They are mixed. I have anger, I have anxiety, I have fear, and I have confusion. I don't know who to listen to. I don't know what the statistics are saying. I don't know who I should follow. It's confusion, right? And then how has it affected me, my family? It has infected our entire existence. Yes, our entire existence as a human being and as a human race, right? And then the part that I played in it, that we are innocent victims, right? So the part that I played and this COVID-19 pandemic. It's just that I was an innocent victim, right? It has challenged my entire existence. I have a whole lot of different feelings because it created uncertainty, but the resentment is against the creation of the virus itself. Okay, so let's go down to the next point. It says resentments regarding I should have put self. So I have a resentment against myself. Yes, you can have a resentment against yourself. Don't you ever get those feelings of if I coulda, woulda, shoulda? Oh, and you have thoughts like, why did I do that? I hate myself. What was I thinking? I have a resentment against self. Why? And the cause, because I took COVID-19 for granted. I was defiant. I was rebellious. I thought it was something out there. I thought I was invincible. It wasn't going to happen to me, right? And so the cause is because I took it for granted. My ego, my pride, my stubbornness, my self-centeredness, my whole attitude, like what? And what feelings did my resentments against me cause? Feelings of regrets, stupidity. Yes. Edwina, you claim to be so smart. You claim to be so intelligent. In our 12-step program, they say our best thinking got us to Alcoholics Anonymous. Guess what? My best thinking contributed to me contracting COVID-19. Feelings of regret, stupidity, and grief when I saw my 2-year-old grandson suffering from COVID-19. When I saw my 78-year-old ex-husband, he was bent over, he was out of it. He could have very well died from COVID-19. And I would have had feelings of, my gosh, I caused that. I contributed to that. Why? By being defiant, by taking this thing for granted. Yes, I have a resentment against myself. What did it affect? Who did it affect? Members of my family, age 2 to 78. It was a 2-year-old. It was 2 8-year-olds. It was a 10-year-old. It was a 48-year-old. It was a 78-year-old. It was another. It was a 7-year-old, right? And myself, right? So 8 family members were affected by COVID-19. And I have to say that resentment is against myself for taking things for granted, not taking it seriously, right? Okay. And then the part that I played in it, I did not heed to all the CDC suggestions. And this is the key word, consistently. Did you hear me? I did not heed to all of the CDC's suggestions consistently. And so when you see how when I outlined the resentment against COVID-19 in general, right? And then when I analyzed how did I contribute to contracting COVID-19, that generated a resentment against myself, similar to the way I felt and becoming a drug addict and alcoholic. People told me that Weena don't drink. People told me not to do this, not to do that, but I'm grown. You can't tell me what to do. No. I know what I'm doing, contrary to all the evidence and everything, I don't know when I crossed the line of social drinking to alcoholic drinking, from social using to addictive using, right? And the same thing with COVID-19. I'm thinking I'm so smart. I'm so intelligent, right? I can pick and choose. Y'all can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me when to wear a mask. You can't tell me how to wash my hands, And guess what? I contracted COVID-19. The great I am, the invincible, The prideful, even knowing that I have the 12 steps at my disposal, but didn't even use them. Didn't even use them. I wanted to show my face. I wanted to show my lipstick. I would what? And I contributed to contracting COVID-19. And guess who was watching me? My grandchildren. If grandma don't wear a mask, I ain't got to wear a mask. And guess what I was saying? Well, if the CDC, they saying wear a mask, but half of them ain't wearing a mask, huh? Hypocrites. And guess what? I became a hypocrite too. And just like them, some of them contracted COVID-19, and so did I. But then you have the ones who are following the suggestions. You have the ones who are adhering to all of the recommendations, right? And because they were, but the people they were in contact with did not. And therefore, they contracted COVID-19 because of somebody else's stupidity, defiance, rebellious nature, huh? So when we do this 4-step inventory, that's how honest we have to be with ourselves. Huh? Honesty, to thy own self be true, open-minded to learn more about my own experience from contracting COVID-19. Yeah, I'm smart, but I want to become wise, and I am a lot wiser now because I'm learning from the experience of others. So yes, I had a resentment against myself, but I thank God that I survived COVID-19. So there is some additional information that Jason Waller helps us to answer in terms of getting to the nitty-gritty, to the core of, our attitudes, ideas, and behaviors, those character defects that challenges us to want to think that we are all that in a can of paint, right? Huh? That we're invincible. So let me share with you some of these questions that he poses, okay? So this will be an eye-opener for a lot of you because many of us don't get a chance to be challenged with these kind of questions, right? But I'm going to listen, I'm going to challenge you right now with these questions, okay? So I pray that you are taking this serious and writing them down, keeping a journal. So through Jason Waller, that's my second resource, and he outlines all of the 12 steps in a beautiful, simplistic way that a child can understand. So I'm going to ask the question, and then I want you to think about it, but then I'm going to interject my experience, my strength, my lack of wisdom, right? My bad choices, okay, for me to contribute it to contracting COVID-19. It says, how did your behavior contribute to your resentment? How did your behavior contribute to your resentment? Well, my behavior against COVID-19 in general, right? I had the behavior of not wanting to demonstrate that I have enough. My behavior, I felt as though wearing a mask made me look silly. It made me feel humiliated. It made me feel like, I'm not in control. And so our attitudes and our ideas control our behavior. It's manifested in our behavior, right? And so when I contracted COVID-19, how did my behavior contribute to my resentment against self? And I shared with you because I was defiant. I was rebellious, right? I did not wear the mask all the time. In the beginning, yes. And then I started shrugging off. And then when members of my family contracted COVID-19, when some of them were in quarantine, I started wearing the mask because I had to feed them, get them on virtual learning screens. And I started wearing a mask when I went in the room. And after a while, I stopped wearing the mask, right? When I came out of the room, I didn't wash my hands. And I exposed other grandchildren to COVID-19, right? I did not do what was suggested. And so the behavior contributed to my resentment against self is that like I found out in my 12-step work with alcohol and drugs, that it was that attitude of being invincible. And when you had that attitude of being invincible, you act differently, you behave differently. So let me ask you the question. How is your behavior contributing to your resentment? Do you have, I know you, like many of us, got resentment against COVID-19. So that's a given. But what behaviors do you have against yourself? You can prevent from getting resentments against yourself, or you can acknowledge what resentments you have against your behavior regarding this COVID-19. Okay, let's go to the second question. How have your resentment affected your life, your relationship with others, and self? Listen. How have my resentments against me affected my life and affected my relationships with others, particularly my grandchildren? Could you imagine how I would feel like some people are experiencing if I contributed to the death of any of my loved ones, my grandchildren, right? By not heeding to the simple suggestions, right? So that resentment I had against self, right? Had against self prompted me to think, wow, Edwina, what would have happened if? But if you want to learn what those feelings are like, if you want to learn what those behaviors are like, then you talk to those individuals who have lost loved ones to this COVID-19 and ask them what they would do differently. What resentments did they have to go against go against being told you can't visit family members, you can't go to family gatherings. How we had a resentment against the COVID-19 and people telling us where and what we can do, right? Ask them. And you will see, like me, now that I have acknowledged my resentment against COVID-19 and myself, that utilizing these 12 recovery principles in my life has given me a different perspective. Yes, it has. Okay. And so what I want to be able to share with you also, because we have about 6 more minutes, we won't be able to cover all of the questions. So I may stop in a little in about a minute or two, but let me see if I can get through the third question. Who and what do you fear and why? Who and what do you fear and why regarding COVID-19? Who and what do you fear? And so I fear that people would think of me differently. People wouldn't respond to me the same way. People would think I was a chump and wearing a mask and all that kind of stuff, right? Wait a minute. It's basically being on image time. And in recovery, we have a saying that are you willing to save your behind, or are you willing to save your face? Okay. And so I know that the second part, it says, and how do you respond destructively and negatively to your fears? Rebelliousness, defiance, taking things for granted. I'm not going to do. You're not going to tell me what to do. All right. And so it's these kind of questions that we need to pose. And I'm going to stop here and continue this tomorrow because I don't want to rush through any of this. So as you can see, this is one of the 2-year-olds, not the one that contracted COVID-19, but her sister did, and who lived in the same house. And as a result, listen, we are following examples, when even though we are here in my house and in my studio, I need to demonstrate. I need to lead by example. I need to show that wearing a mask can save your life. And so when we think about taking that fearless and more inventory, right, that searching and looking at every crack and cranny to identify those attitudes, ideas, and behaviors, right, that were formulated years ago as to why I'm so resistant to authority, why I don't like being told what to do. Even she don't like to be told what to do, right? And so, and we can see where that attitude, idea, and behavior was from. In some cases, it's in our natural makeup, right? For whatever reason, okay? As Dr. Scott T. Allison talked about, it's in our DNA to want to take control. But at some point, we have to learn and recognize there are a lot of things we are not in control over, and we need to surrender and acknowledge and admit that. All right. And so by sitting here with her, uh, like I said, it was her sister who contracted COVID-19, initially by being exposed to it in school. She came home to where they all lived, where the 78-year-old grandfather lived, right? And those two making a decision, right, to have them come here to Delaware, right? Again, exposing it to us unknowingly, thinking everything is cool, taking it for granted. Wouldn't you know, huh? The fact that they had it, two more of us contracted it, right? And then the fact that one was around me and around other people, they went home and they subjected their family, and that's the other 2-year-old, right? And then come to find out the 7-year-old, you know, knowing that we had it, but the leaders of their family decided to go to a birthday party because they had a Thanksgiving dinner and everybody was cool and thinking that here is January, that everybody is cool, we can all meet again. And the whole doggone family contracted COVID-19. Huh? So I have heard, I have seen, I have experienced, uh, and reading the statistics and reading the data of people that I know have died, are dying from COVID-19. They say that a person dies from COVID-19 every 30 seconds. Could you imagine that? Every 30 seconds. Oh my God, every 30 seconds. And so I want to leave you with, you see your family, my family behind me. You see this little one that I have in my arms. I can hold her. I can kiss her. I can breathe, right? I can smell. I can taste. I can feel. And so my question to you once again, are you in the proactive mode, interact intervention mode, or restoration mode of COVID-19? Are you being proactive, reactive, inactive, or are you now being responsible to COVID-19? If it's God's will that we are joined and reunited for day 60, I look forward to being here because everyone has the ability to do the next right thing to save your life and to save the lives of others. So I want to leave with you my acknowledgement of my two resources and who is sponsoring this podcast. Be blessed, but more importantly, be safe.